The Nittany Lions are rested and ready for a trip to the big house. PSU will have to lean on their fresh talent and keep their quarterback on his feet.
It's a job that so many would love to have, and every Saturday I'm like, this is the best.
Our Impact interview is with Fox Sports sideline reporter Jenny Taft. How she preps for the big noon kickoff and what she has to share about this year's Wolverines. Get your gear and show your pride for this top 10 matchup in Ann Arbor. It's time for Nittany Game Week. So hello everyone and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski along with our coaches Jay Paterno and Tom Bradley. You guys look fresh coming off the bye week, huh? What's a bye week do for you?
Cutting grass. That's what I did for the bye week.
Played some golf. Got some golf in a little bit on the bye week.
All right. Well, look, how about for a team? What can it do mentally, physically, to feel a little fresher as you reach this 7-game stretch in the final 7 weeks?
It can cut you both ways. If you're rolling, sometimes it kills momentum. This team probably benefits because they've been a little bit up and down the last couple of weeks, so benefits in terms of looking at some things, self-scouting, getting some people healthy, and going forward.
All right.
See, I find the same thing, but I think it can be tricky. How many days you have off, how much you hit, how competitive you are against each other. It's not, every team's different, and you have to know your team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, let's put it out there right now. Road win against the team ranked in the top 5. Hasn't happened since 1994. The date, October 15th, against Michigan after a bye week, and I'm sure you guys remember that game well.
I do for sure. That was a heck of a football game. Came right down to the very end. Thank goodness we had a guy named Kerry Collins.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was coaching James Madison, watching the game and throwing stuff at the TV.
Yeah.
So I do remember it, but I'll never forget Bob Ingram catching that ball on his way in the end zone, and then Brian Miller made the play at the end of the game.
Okay, well, let's hope history repeats itself. Let's get to our opening drive. Now, the goal is to be better after the bye week. Coach Franklin's team's only 3 wins after a rest week, partly because they seem to play Michigan every other year in this situation, 4th time in 9 years. We show you some of the Purdue highlights because they did some nice things situationally, Jay, that they'll need to improve on against the Wolverines.
Third downs are going to be critical in this game because Michigan is very good on third down offensively. Their mindset is to hold the ball and wear you down. If Penn State's defense is on the field a bunch, going to be problems. That's going to be important for Penn State.
See, I think it's all going to be who gets the lead first. Because if Penn State can jump to an early lead, then Michigan can't play that dink and dunk ball control.
Well, Coach made some adjustments to their practice schedule, kept the players and coaches mentally fresh, and he thinks how they've managed the team from day one is going to be a factor.
Our depth is in a better position, not only that it's been in the past, but also how it's been from the beginning of the season. I think there's less question marks that you guys have as media and that we have as coaches of our depth, overall and at specific positions that you guys had a ton of questions about in the beginning of the season.
Now, of course, it always helps to have splash plays. Michigan now has to game plan for an explosive runner like Nick Singleton.
Well, this is one of those games where, it's going to come down to who can get explosive plays. Both defenses are very good at preventing them. So I think that's going to be a challenge for Penn State and for Michigan to get something.
These are one of those chess matches, Tom, that you match up with Coach Harbaugh and his staff.
That's what's going to happen. But Jay hit it right on the head. The first one that flinches and gives up a big play could be in trouble.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be fun to watch. Penn State likes to play a lot of nickel. If they're going to be in a lot of nickel, Michigan gets into 2 tight end sets and makes those guys play linebacker. Does Penn State put linebackers in, or what do?
Yeah, it's always a tough battle against Michigan. The Wolverines really beat up on Sean Clifford early in last year's contest. They can be relentless with their approach to wear you down, no doubt about it, on both sides of the ball.
Well, one of the things, Indiana came at them with tempo early in the game, had some success, but Michigan rolled through a bunch of pass rushers and a bunch of guys up front. They're going to play a lot of down guys, and 7 different guys got sacks. Indiana's offensive line got worn out. Going to be a challenge for Penn State.
The other thing I find interesting is Michigan's quarterback, 71% completion percentage is a little bit unheard of nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, no doubt a victory over a top 5 Michigan team at the Big House will be a signature win for 6-year QB Sean Clifford. Our guest last week, Trace McSorley, told us what a victory like this could do for Clifford and the entire team.
When he's firing, when he's confident, and when things are rolling, he's one of the best guys to be leading that team. And I think for him to kind of be able to step up and, win this week, obviously they got Michigan, and then, a couple weeks got Ohio State, but the more they can kind of keep winning will be huge. And anytime they got a really young team, you get a big win like that against, a top program in the nation. It does a lot for not just a single player, but for your team as a whole.
His legacy can be seriously elevated in the next 3 weeks. And, of course, he can't do it alone. It's going to take another stout defensive effort to leave the big house with the W.
Well, Michigan is about controlling the ball, and they're patient. They're not worried about getting 70 points, so they'll be more than happy to win this game 21-17 like last year, and that's going to challenge Penn State's defense.
That's why I said if Penn State can jump on them early and get up, then that changes on Michigan's whole style in the game.
Well, Penn State's defense against Auburn, look, they got a couple of really nice road wins already. They handled the run really well, and they tried to control Finley after the break to control that running that we might see from McCarthy. Okay, let's go to our scrap metal. So, Tom, you go with a true freshman capable of getting tough yards inside, something the Nittany Lions may need against the Wolverines on the ground.
He's a guy that he's averaging 5.3 a carry. He's caught 3 passes for 38. He's only had 1 play of negative yardage, and that's for -5. I think he's a guy that's going to be very key in this football game.
Really nice 1-2 punch, and he has shown some great vision around the end zone. Still to come, it hasn't happened in 28 years. That road win versus a top 5 ranked opponent. Our Nittany Game Week coaching staff takes the extra week to break down the Wolverines. Our scouting report is up next after the break.
Scrap Metal is sponsored by the We Are Inn, voted #1 game day restaurant in Center County. Follow us on Facebook and visit theweareinn.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
We are back on Nittany Game Week. The Nittany Lions coaching staff gets an extra week to dissect the Wolverines' game plans, and it's the same deal for our coaching staff. And Michigan is a fascinating team to study. Coach Bradley, Coach Paterno, it's a maze out in the big house. The players need to keep all of their focus on the uniforms on the field because this is going to be a 4-quarter challenge.
This is old school Big Ten football. Michigan they're not worried about stats. They're not worried about flash. They're going to punt. They're going to take the approach that they don't turn the ball over and play field position. They'll win the game. Let's talk about how they're going to get that done, Tom. And it starts with the run game on offense. Their base is going to be 2 tight ends. Here's an example where they balance you up, and then they decide they're going to make a choice whether they run or pass. And if they run it, they're going to run away from the safety that comes down. And, Tom, this is a pain in the butt because you got to decide. You got to pick sides, and now they go the opposite side.
Once you start picking your sides, then they go the opposite way. They read it at the line of scrimmage, and they just work from there. And then when you get cute, they motion and bring a tight end over.
Yep, and you can see they block down with the tight end. They pull the front side tackle and guard. They get a nice hole there, and you'll get a great shot of this from behind. And you can see how that hole opens. And don't forget how well their wideouts block downfield as well to spring open their run game. Now, once they get you going on the run game, now they're going to play action. So when you start to bring guys in to handle the run game, now he's going to pull that thing out. They really are a much more effective passing team on 1st and 2nd down. Tom, talk about what this play action does for you.
First of all, you got to look here. In this pool, they do a tremendous job of really selling that run there, which frees them up. Watch them on the perimeter here. And then these guys are running versus air basically out here.
Yeah, and you can see right here, he comes off, no pressure in his face, and a guy wide open. And that's going to be a problem. Penn State's going to have to deal with that. Now, last thing we want to talk about is the next phase of their game is 3rd downs. This is where McCarthy has struggled. Now, he's been careful not to turn the ball over, but you can see he's a young quarterback. He's got his mind made up to work over here. They do a nice job with Maryland. This safety comes over and helps, and he does not jam it in there. So take a look at this from the video. He's very careful not to jam the pass in there if he's not sure he has it, and that's why they've been able to avoid turnovers.
That, and they haven't been in these long yardage situations. They want to keep it at 3rd and lower than 5.
Yeah, they've done a nice job. And again, if you can get them to throw one up and get them confused with the off week, they may have a chance. Now let's talk about Michigan's defense. They are a base nickel defense when you look at it. They're going to have 5 DBs in the game. That's what they like. Does Penn State then put in extra tight ends and run the ball against that nickel and get them out of there? We'll see what happens. But again, they have the defensive end standing up, and take a look at how they play this now. Tom, I know you were a big proponent of nickel defenses.
Well, if you have the right nickel, if you have that guy, and I think their nickel is really a half guy. He's half a linebacker, half a nickel.
Yeah, he's
because they like to use him a lot.
Very effective, and they've been able to get pass rush. So let's take a look at now what they do to quarterbacks. Now, again, they're going to start with one of the things with the nickel, it gives you a lot of flexibility, Tom, to move safeties around. Talk about how they do this.
Yeah, well, that's the great thing is because now I've got 3 guys I can start moving to different places, which causes them a lot of different reads for the quarterback.
Yeah, and then you get this backside linebacker. Take a look at this video. That backside linebacker, they go from what looks like a 2 shell to now 1 deep, and then the middle linebacker starts sprinting, which closes the window for that quarterback to throw the ball, and then ends up in an interception from Maryland. And then last but not least, we'll talk about some of the things they do. And they've gotten much more effective rushing the passer. They're going to give it blitz inside, which is going to keep the back in now. And now you've got man-to-man, and you've got both defensive ends dropping under the quick throws. Everybody likes those slants.
Very hard because these guys are you're coaching the heck out of these guys. Just vision, they're like what we call thieves. They're just coming back and picking up the low-level slant routes.
Yep, take a look at the video here. They bring the guys up the middle. They don't pick up the linebacker inside, and now all of a sudden they've got a lot of traffic inside for the quarterback to throw over, and that's a problem. Now, we talked about McCarthy's stats real quick. We go to the stat list of what he's done on first and second down. In run downs, he's almost 80% throwing the ball. In pass downs, he's under 50% of Penn State can make him throw. That's the way they're going to have to do it. So, Todd, that's our scouting report.
It's going to be a challenge, no doubt. All right, thanks a lot, fellas. Of course, the Wolverines are very clear what's at stake this weekend. There's only a handful of real contenders in the Big Ten East Division, and one of them is coming to the Big House. Coach Harbaugh's squad, halfway through their regular season schedule, already bowl eligible. No rest for the weary, though. They didn't have a bye week to rest up, and that includes first coaching staff. These guys relish the opportunities to go head-to-head with a big-time opponent.
Always get into this battle rhythm of the season. I mean, it's just always demanding, punishing, challenging yourself to put the players in the best position possible every single week. And you get used to it, and you look forward to it, and that's what drives you.
Now the Wolverines take a break from the battle rhythm after this matchup with Penn State before they host their in-state rivals Michigan State on the 29th. Time to take a break. When we come back, our Impact interview is with Fox Sports' versatile talent, Jenny Taft. She's seen a lot of Michigan so far this year. We'll talk Wolverines and some hockey. Nittany Game Week returns after this.
Impact Interview is sponsored by the Pocono Mountains, where small-town charm meets big adventures. Book your trip today by visiting PoconoMountains.com.
Welcome back. Time for our Impact interview. Our guest this week garners universal respect for her versatility to cover a wide range of sports at the highest level. World Cup soccer, the NFL, Stanley Cup playoffs, Major League Baseball, and college football, of course. And here's the cool, you might not have known stuff. Her dad was on the '76 U.S. Olympic hockey team. Mom was a speed skater. Husband played hockey at Boston U, played some in the NHL, and on the Olympic team. The one and only Jenny Taft from Fox Sports. Welcome to Nittany Game Week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you guys so much. I'm very flattered and happy to be here.
Well, look, it's all true. So we had to get it out there, and we're hockey fans around here, too. We might talk about that sport in just a little bit. But, I mentioned your family's athletic ability, but you were an accomplished athlete in your own right, a 4-year letter winner in lacrosse at Boston University. So talk about the impact your career had in your life and your career choice, because I'm sure that background helps the job performance when you can relate to the athletes on the field.
Sure. I mean, that's a great way to put it, because in so many ways, when I was in college, I always wanted to play a sport growing up, right? But I always knew I wanted to stay in sports. And the reality is, I was a pretty good lacrosse player. I was a pretty good hockey player, but I wasn't always playing. I sat on the bench a lot of the time in college as well. I'm not going to be too confident here. And I always wanted to be around the game. So for me, I always tell people that I feel like I'm so close to the game as a sideline reporter. It's the closest I get to that rush from playing sports. It's that red light going on and just being around it. And I do think that because I had the experience as a D1 athlete of understanding the schedule of what these guys are going through, I do understand some of those obligations and how hard it is to manage everything. So it's given me a great perspective. I feel really old sometimes. I just turned 35 and I'm like, college was a long time ago now. And I'm like, I can't say I just graduated from BU, but the experience has helped me so much. And I loved Boston University. They had a great journalism school. So I wanted to do it always. I mean, you mentioned my husband played at BU. Like, I would pretend to interview him in college, and he gave me a hard time at the time, but it clearly was worth it because I had that experience. So it was a great experience overall. And I'm happy for those 4 years I had at BU.
Jenny, to the outside world, sometimes fans think that you just show up and cover the game and talk, but your versatility puts you out there covering a wide range of sports. Can you give us some insight into how you prep for a big college football game? How different is that from other sports like World Cup soccer?
I love talking about college football prep because I do find it really interesting. And there's so much behind the scenes that a lot of people don't really realize. And that's okay. I mean, the role of a sideline reporter is kind of the eyes and ears of someone on the field, right? I relay a lot of information to Joel and Gus and our producer, Chuck McDonald, throughout the game. So I'm kind of constantly in communication. But going into the game, what I really love about our crew, Gus and Joel and myself, we really have this overarching understanding of the team. So we pride ourselves on knowing a lot about both teams. So we don't script out a lot. So let's say we're having a conversation. I mean, I've had a lot of Michigan games the past couple of weeks, and I know you guys are talking to me because we're about to have a big Michigan game. But we know these players so well. So let's say we're talking about their QB, JJ McCarthy. And we have so many different angles to the story, but I can add that next layer. And I've spent a lot of time talking to him on the phone, or I met with him in person. Like Sean Clifford and I have had plenty of conversations before the season started that all of that will be relevant at some point later on. So it's so much of the prep is leading up, and you might not use all of it, right? You have all of these stories just in case. And then I always believe that the stuff you find on the field, any coach conversations that you're able to kind of get a little sense of what's being said, or any in-game adjustments, like those are the best reports always. So I always try to offer that. But the prep is so much before. I'm about to get on the phone with some Michigan players after we wrap up this interview. So it's constantly changing. Every week is different. And you just have to be so well read about all of these teams and make sure that those relationships are built with the coaches as well. So when you need to call on them in those moments, they will respect you and give you that time.
Jenny, with the number of Michigan games you've already done, it seems that the Fox Big Noon slot has turned into Michigan Television Network. Since you've seen Michigan in person already, can you tell Penn Staters just how good these Michigan guys might be?
Well, first of all, I laughed because the Big Noon slot, initially a couple years ago when Fox told us that this was their plan, we were all like, great. I mean, we can get home Saturday night. That sounds like a great idea. And it has been a big success for the most part. There are some teams and some coaches that don't like the earlier start. And I understand that it's recruiting. There's so much that goes into it, but do find that the noon slot has been really fun and effective. And it's cool to have that brand recognition with the Fox crew being there at noon, which I think has been a great success in a lot of ways. And then back to the other part of the question was Michigan football. I think what's so unique about this team is we saw their potential last year. And they replaced a lot of good players as well. But I think JJ McCarthy is a player that we've only just seen the beginnings of, and he's just scratching the surface of his potential. I have spent a lot of time with him. I think that he is a very impressive young individual that has a lot of talent and very respected by his teammates. They have weapons, they're just starting to figure themselves out. And then defensively, they've had some big moments. I mean, they have all of the potential, but I don't know if I've seen enough to know just how great this team will be. I know the direction they're going.
Don't go anywhere. We're going to step aside to take a break. On the TV side of things, we'll continue our interview with Jenny Taft. So if you want to see the entire conversation, make sure to go to NittanyGameWeek.com for the entire interview, along with other web exclusive content. No tailgates or game last week. That doesn't mean our viewers aren't sharing their pride picks. In fact, we ask for and receive some pooch picks sporting the blue and white. We're heading into the final minutes on Nittany Game Week.
We scrap. I mean, now with me, technically running a team and running a defense, I understand how much goes into it. I understand, when you're thinking and the players kind of asking you questions, you're like, hey, I'm thinking about next week and this and that and the third. I understand why he was always doing that.
Yeah, former first team Big Ten defensive tackle and Super Bowl champion Jordan Hill says, yeah, he's part of Scrap's coaching tree. Jordan's in his second year as the Trinity Shamrocks head coach near Harrisburg. Kind of cool, right, to see the former players out there coaching.
He's not only a great player, he was a great person to be around and a great teammate to a lot of players.
Yeah, Jordan Hill is really doing a nice job at Trinity, and the big thing is just giving the life lessons and all that stuff to the players. Jay, quickly a word for one.
Mike Hart, the running back coach at Michigan, had a seizure last week on the field. Hope he's doing well and thinking about he and his family and get back on there.
Yep, definitely scary health situation there. Glad to see he's okay. Okay, players to watch. Let's take a look. Michigan players to watch on the offensive side. They got some talent, guys.
Obviously, the running back, third in the country in rushing yards. Tight end really emerged last week for them. Look to see if Roman Wilson, 14 plays. He's a game day decision. On defense, we talked about Zero Sainer still as a nickel back. They're going to roll through a lot of guys in the pass rush, so Penn State's got to make sure they stay fresh and protect the quarterback.
All right, that nickel's a big part of what they do, Tom.
It's a huge part. He's a very versatile player in this scheme, and they rely on him to do a lot of different things, not only pass, but in linebacker stuff too.
All right, well, don't miss our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com, which includes these local businesses. Our goal is to build a team in the community that supports the show and that you, in turn, support as a viewer. It's going to keep the hometowns strong. And the depth chart is just one of many reasons to check out NittanyGameWeek.com. Bonus content, past episodes, extended impact interviews at a time that's convenient for you. Make sure to visit when you get a chance. No game last weekend, but we asked for and received some Penn State pooch pics. So we finish with doggy parents all over the region showing off their pride. For Jay and Tom, I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We'll see you next time.
Woof.